a place called Wuhan, which is a military laboratory in China. A soldier's identity never changes. No war, no peace.
The men cannot show emotions.
Are you a girl? Stop crying.
You had to kill.
What Hitler did to the innocent people in Poland, enemy soldiers firing you with a barrage of all kinds of ammunition.
What is war?
They've lived a life which is also worth dying for. What is fear?
For people who have never seen war,
The aim of war is not to kill, and they killed 1,500 innocent civilians, unarmed civilians.
join us to talk about fear, trauma, leadership, and survival.
Today, India is rising
You still feel it.
because a soldier and his family is the one who suffers the most.
We often speak of PTSD.
We were able to survive because we were able to adapt. And if somebody has to die, then let it be the enemy. The inflated egos of some of the world leaders.
And this is real leadership.
So my biggest achievement is that I was able to bring back every single guy back alive.
Hey you, this is the way. I'm your starry man. Forest walks and deep talks. Hey you, it's hard to tell you're so free. You got me on leash.
Cześć, nazywam się Magdalena Ostrowicka. Zapraszam na nieostre rozmowy. Witajcie. Ja nazywam się Magdalena Ostrowicka, a to jest kanał Nieostre Rozmowy. W dniu dzisiejszym wyjątkowy gość, wyjątkowa chwila, szczególny moment dla mnie, dlatego że w Nieostrych Rozmowach będę dzisiaj gościć doktora, podpułkownika, a powinnam powiedzieć podpułkownika doktora Samira Rawata, profesora wizytującego.
Dzisiejszy wyjątkowy wywiad został przeprowadzony w języku angielskim. W celu włączenia polskich napisów postępuj zgodnie z tym, co dzieje się na ekranie.
Welcome to Nieostre Rozmowy. This is not the comfortable space. And that's the point. Everybody talks about war. But I think few understand what it does. To minds, to bodies, to futures. Today's guest has seen the front lines, not just on maps, but inside human beings. Colonel Dr. Samir Rawat, combat veteran, military psychologist and strategist, join us to talk about fear, trauma, leadership, and survival. What happens when war isn't just something out there, but something we carry inside? Let's go there. Quietly, precisely, honestly. Okay, hello.
Thank you, Magda, for having me over.
Yes, how do you feel before our interview, before our podcast?
I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. And the weather is not really good here, but I hope you stay well here.
Yes, thank you. I quite like the weather.
So are you ready for my
Yes, of
questions? Okay, we can start. Colonel Rawat, today war is no longer as a distant topic. It's on the news, in casual conversation, and in the back of people's minds. Why do you think there is such a growing fear of war right now, even among civilians who haven't experienced it?
Okay, so let me explain to you. 21st century new generation warfare is not aimed at destruction of what we call 3M, that is men, material, and munition. It is more at getting into and breaking the psyche of the mind, not just the military, but the civilian population as well. So there is a popular acronym for fear. What is fear? Fake evidence. That is fake evidence on social media. And that is FE. And AR stands for appearing real. So it's not real. It is imaginary because it's been played out by the social media, by giving us, constantly bombarding us with information about the war and creating a psyche which is causing fear in the minds of the people. So let me introduce a term called secondary traumatization and also vicarious trauma. So secondary traumatization happens when somebody hears about, as a third person, if you hear about narratives of the war, or you meet somebody who has experienced it, and through that person, by constantly getting information related to it, you're yourself experiencing it. So civilians also today, while they have not experienced war, they're actually experiencing secondary traumatization.
Feeling, they feel it.
Yes, it's imaginary. They feel traumatized because the psyche is there. And like I said, the aim of war is not to kill, contrary to popular belief. The aim of war is not to kill, but destruction of enemies' mind, to break the will to fight.
This is important what you say.
Yes.
This is very hard, and your speech now it's beginning very, very deep. Are you ready for the next question?
Yes.
Yes?
So,
Okay. Based on your military and psychological perspective, is this fear justified? Or are we being shaped by media and uncertainty more than actual risk?
okay, so it's good that you brought out this question. So a vehement no to the answer to your question, that is this fear justified? It is not. Because like I said, and yes, it is justified. It's not justified. But when your second question is it being played out by the social media? Yes, it is. It is basically the social media to increase their TRPs. They constantly bombard us with information which is perceived to be, as they have some contact in the military, the generals and the soldiers on the boot on ground, giving them real-time information about what is happening on the war front. And they will give us breaking news every 30 minutes to update us and create that fear and psyche in the minds of people. So I think it is also driven by warmongers and also jingoism and people's perceived sense of patriotism. And that is what is being inflamed. And all this creates a fear, and I don't think it is justified. There's nothing to be worried about. We are not actually going to war because the enemy is not at the gate, and we are strong. We are committed. We are not in it alone. We are there to fight together as a nation.
This is also strong, and you think it's all over the world? This building with media, the situation?
Yes, because they're always looking to they increase their target rating points, like I said, the TRPs. So my suggestion and recommendation to people is stay away from, I don't watch television. Because
Me too.
yes,
Stay away.
stay away and live in the real
Listen
world.
it.
Listen to the real world. Stay in the real world and not in the virtual world. Maybe you need to get time to stop and smell the roses and enjoy the freshness, meet people, instead of being glued to the TV and being constantly bombarded with negative information, which is something is playing on the mind and making us believe that, oh, we are about to, the threat of war, which is lingering in our minds, is not real.
For people who have never seen war, the concept is abstract, full of images, headlines, and numbers. But what does war really like through the eyes of someone who lived it?
Let me put it this way. No soldier would want to go to war, because a soldier and his family is the one who suffers the most. Yet, if push comes to shove, and there is a time for you to be standing and defend the nation, a soldier will do it again and again, because he is destined to protect the people whom he serves.
It's important what you say.
Yes. And at the same time, because of my experience, I must tell you, war is very grotesque. It's not something to be glorified. It can never be replicated in the movies, and it should not be, right? Because it is, to my mind, and those who have experienced it, it is something just for mere survival in very unimaginable and very unhuman conditions. So while war is something which should be avoided at all costs, yet if it is required for the nation's survival, well, then the policymakers decide. The decision is not a military one. It's the political leaders who decide when you talk about war, whether you should go in or not. So with my experience of war, for example, if I were to share stories of actual war, with people, they would, believe me, not be able to eat food at the dining table for the next 3 days.
But do people believe you when you speak about, when you talk about this reality of soldiers' life?
Yeah, so I look at it from two perspectives. Normally, people talk only about the negative perspective of war brings, but if you say war also brings the other side of war, which means that it gives you experience, it gives you meaning to life. You begin to take more importance in relationships. You are able to try and justify to yourself why you are living in as a human being as a result of combat exposure. So it also gives us an opportunity to appreciate small things of life which you would take for granted. It gives you an opportunity to understand yourself better. It gives you opportunity to thank God that you are alive and to demonstrate and display gratitude each day, every day.
You've been in some of the most extreme combat situations on earth. Could you describe a moment to this day defines war for you? What is war?
Okay, so like I said, I would look at it from a positive psychology perspective. And I would like to share an incident which taught me about leadership and teamwork very early in my years as a soldier. I was maybe in my young 20s. So there is this actual ground position line on the Siachen Glacier, if you may have heard. It's the highest battlefield in the world.
Yes, I know. It's crazy. Yeah?
It's 21,000 feet and temperatures are minus 53 degrees centigrade and the wind chill is up to 200 kilometers an hour. That's quite a lot. So the real enemy is the inclement weather, the inhospitable terrain, and you also intermittently have from across the border enemy soldiers firing you with a barrage of all kinds of ammunition as if just to justify their existence. So we were deployed on a forward post, and then one day we observed that there was enemy MMG, that's a machine gun post which has come up, which had to be neutralized because it was a threat to our very existence. So we had to move a weapon system which was capable of destroying that bunker, but it was on another post, and it took us 3 days to carry it from there to this new post. And one round weighs 46 kgs. We were able to, between 4 of us, just because the rarefied oxygen makes it more difficult for us to perform tasks. So it took us 3 days to get the weapon system into that place, and we slowly inched forward and moved up to 200 meters from the designated target. And as a leader, as a young leader, I was full of enthusiasm that, okay, we need to, and I must also share with you, how did we get to know about it? We saw crows hovering upstairs, which means a very poor discipline by the military soldiers from the other side. They must have left some food as scavengers, and crow was looking for food. So that's how we cited that there is some enemy movement there. So I got close, and we were nearly 200 meters. And then to get a better view before firing the weapon, I stood up with a pair of binoculars and I was observing the enemy bunker, and suddenly I found a push and I was thrown onto the ground. And I looked to my side and I saw my buddy, a young boy of maybe also in his 20s. And I had heard stories that when you are in high altitude areas, sometimes imagination plays on your mind. You tend to have mental related issues. So I thought this boy, my buddy, was having some problems. So I asked him what happened. And he stood up in front of me and he said, "Sir, if you have to look at the binocular, through your binocular at the post, you can do it, but you will have to stand behind me." For me, when you talk of ultimate leadership, I learned that very lesson, that here was a boy, 20 years of age, willing to put himself as a shield in front of me so that if the enemy were to fire, he would get the round first. And because he knew that if something happened to me, the mission would be compromised. And it was very important for the mission. He was willing to lay down his life. So, and this is something which stays with me, that there are no Rambos in the battlefield. It's all about teamwork. And also, when you talk about leadership, most people would talk about leadership in terms of military leadership, in terms of rank and insignia. But I find my understanding of leadership is your ability to inspire and influence others. Even today, I'm inspired and influenced by young soldiers like him who were willing to lay down their lives, put themselves to risk so that the mission is not compromised. So this was a takeaway from me of something good that I learned very early in life about what actually war is. It separates the men from the boys.
Mhm.
It
This
displays
beautiful beautiful how can I say experience, beautiful moment, because now even when you describe that, it's I feel you still feel it.
Yes, I can feel it. And I will always carry this with me. Always. Because it's not, today if I'm alive, it's because of so many soldiers whom we fought together as a team. Not just because I was a leader.
Okay, how old were you in this moment?
I was maybe around 24, 25.
And now you are?
Well, now I'm 18 with 40 years of experience.
This is crazy. This is crazy. Huh? Thank you for this story, because I think it's very maybe useful or more real for the people who never experience war.
Yes,
I can say it.
Absolutely. So war takes out the worst in humans, and it also takes out the best in humans.
Mm-hmm.
It is how we react to the situation. So like I maintain and strongly believe that there are no heroes in battle.
Mm-hmm.
It is the circumstances which create heroes.
You've worked with both soldiers and civilians. In your experience, how do the symptoms of trauma differ between the two groups?
Okay, so it may not be correct for me to draw parallels between the military and the civilian clients who come to me for dealing with issues related to trauma and other stress reactions. For the simple reason that in the military and in the non-military, the profile of PTSD symptoms are different. And like we know in psychology, there are always individual differences. So the same person can react whether he's in the military or not in the military, can react differently. And yet, I can maybe, from my experience in dealing with clients, there are some differences which come out. So for example, people from military backgrounds, they will experience more of aggression, which is directed outwards. Compared to the non-military, that is the civilians, you will find sometimes the aggression is diverted inwards, which is, it could be in terms of suicidal ideation. In the military, you have issues related to startle response because flashbacks of memories of gruesome events which took place in their lives during the operations. So they also have survivor guilt, that I came back alive, but a lot of my friends could not. So that survivor guilt is a very recurring thought. They also have intrusive thoughts about the events. And then not being able to sleep is another challenge which I find in the military population.
Mm-hmm.
And in the civilian population, mostly you will find it's characterized by higher levels of maybe abuse of maybe some alcohol or some drug abuse or depression. And that is in essence the difference. Maybe also social isolation. They tend to cut off from others. And like I mentioned, maybe depression. This is as far as the non-military, the civilians are concerned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But okay, we often speak of PTSD, but are there more subtle, long-term effects that we overlook, especially in those who don't even realize they are traumatized?
Yes, unfortunately, post experiencing of the traumatic event, there are some soldiers who live a life of denial, because as soldiers, they're supposed to be macho. They're supposed to be having no problems.
But it's not like that.
Yes, they perceive themselves. So they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to share it. They want to put it under the carpet. And they live with it and carry it to their grave.
Yes, and later the carpet is
it's
not possible
yes.
to pass.
Unfortunately, some return, not all, but some returning soldiers get into this. We also spoke about secondary traumatization. So many of us also experience secondary traumatization without even knowing that we have gone through a secondary traumatization, which could not because of being themselves in combat, but hearing about stories about narratives of combat operations. So this is also another facet of war, which is very unfortunate. And people, of course, with awareness and hindsight, now they've realized that yes, it's okay. It's okay to be normal. It's okay for men to cry. It's okay for them to share, because it's something which are, I would say, perceived in the military as feminine traits. You don't cry in front of others. You don't show that you are weak, so you don't talk about it.
But it's, I think,
But it
now
is.
in global social problem that the men cannot show emotions, cannot show what they are feeling.
Yes, and this happens because what we call the secondary, it's called the gender process of socialization, which starts at a very young age. And typically you find a girl and boy in the family. So if the girl falls down and her knee is bleeding and she cries, and the
Come
parent,
on.
they will pet her and
Yes.
give her a candy and tell her, don't cry, it's okay.
Yes, it's okay.
And if the boy were to do it, the parents
Come
say,
on, stand up.
Stop being a girl.
Oh, yes.
Stop crying. Are you a girl? Stop crying.
Yes.
So you have already bombarded the poor child, who happens to be, unfortunately in this case, a boy, that it's not okay to cry. So he learns to stifle his tears, and after some time the tears dry up. But the problem is there. When a boy or girl of any gender gets hurt, the pain is the same.
Mhm.
One has learned to
This is
express it.
beautiful. Pain is the same.
Yes, so one has to do some cognitive restructuring and let the soldier know that if you have got hurt, it could be a psychological wound or it could be a physical wound. A wound is there which needs to be, it's a scar which needs to be healed. And especially in the case of post-traumatic stress disorder, these scars take a lot of time. These wounds take a lot of time to heal. It requires not just the soldier, but it requires the soldier's family. It requires significant people in the lives of the soldier who matter. It requires the community of support to reintegrate the soldier and mainstream him back. Because when he went, most families, military families, they oftentimes say, he's not the same person who came back after war. So to get him back to be the same person, to get him back to be what we perceive as normal, when he went, he was
what we
normal.
should do, what the family should do.
Yes, so there are a lot of reintegration programs, which means stabilizing the home front is very important to let the soldier know that we are there for you. What you did was not for yourself.
Mhm.
What you did was for the
You
nation.
had to kill for the
Yes.
country, for another reason, not,
Yes,
not
so-
for your reason.
Yeah. So, for example, I will give you. I'll give you an example of soldiers in India. Like India is the land of the Buddha, the land
Mhm.
of Mother Teresa,
Mhm.
the Mahatma Gandhi. All talk about non-violence, and yet young boys and girls now as well, when they are inducted into the military, they're trained that sometimes it's okay to kill as a virtue to protect others. And if somebody has to die, then let it be the enemy.
If somebody has to die. We wish that the people don't have to die.
Yes. Unfortunately, war is something where either you're the hunter or you're the hunted. And it's the taxpayers' money. So a lot of people, especially cadets, say, I can die for my country. So I tell them, look, we are not here to train you to die for the country. You have to make sure that the other person dies for his country. And you have to live to fight and live to protect the country.
Beautiful. Is there such a thing as a collective trauma where entire societies carry fear, grief, or anger from conflict, even without direct exposure?
Yes, of course, it exists. And even if it is transferred across generations. So, for example, I will share with you of an incident in India on 13th of April, 1919, when India was under the British rule. There was a General Dyer who ordered to open fire on unarmed civilians who were basically pilgrims who had gathered for some religious function. And these soldiers, the British army, they kept firing till the ammunition ran out, and they killed 1,500 innocent civilians, unarmed civilians. And what is more appalling is that even today, the British have not yet apologized 100 years later for this ghastly, grotesque, inhuman act.
Now
We
you
still
say
carry it.
double grotesque. Later I will ask you why like that. Huh?
Yes, because and you will also find, like even in Poland, you will find similar. When I'm talking about collective trauma, you will still find, you can relate to this, I'm sure, about what Hitler did to the innocent people in Poland during the World War. I can draw a parallel. Imagine unarmed, innocent people, 1,500 of them, and you're firing at point blank range till you run out of ammunition. So this is
Yes, this
collective
is- yes.
trauma. I still feel so bad that those people, they were killed for no rhyme or reason.
And what we can say, this is like grotesque. It's crazy. It's difficult for understand, and we feel like empty.
Helpless.
Yes. What we can do? Nothing.
Yes, you feel so helpless, but you can't go back and change the past. But what you can still do is what I would expect, that today's generation of people who are living in UK, who consider themselves, that India is a third world country, and you are a very progressive country, and you still do not feel the need to apologize for something that your ancestors did. You plundered our nation, you killed our people, you took away everything from us. We were not a poor nation.
Mm-hmm.
We have a 5,000 year of history, rich history. We were simple people who never ever went and occupied other people's land. We allowed everybody. So 200 years of British rule, and then we had the Portuguese also who had colonized us. We had the French also who had colonized us. And 800 years ago, the Mughals had colonized us. They made an effort to rule over us, but nobody could rule because we are still what we are. And if I'm sure you're aware, today India is rising. We're one of the fastest, if not one of, we are the fastest growing economy in the world.
Mm-hmm. You have right. Huh? It's beautiful. Also, what you say, it's very important about how can I say the native, the nation. I'm sorry, the nation should feel responsibility about past too. Huh?
Yes, absolutely. We need to know our past, our history, so that we know how our future would like to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have to live in the present. We have to acknowledge that what we learned from the past, never allow this kind of a thing ever to happen again. And that is why today we have a very strong army. We have a blue water navy and one of the finest air force in the world, because we will not accept.
I think not everybody knows that.
Yes.
Especially here in Poland and maybe all over the world, because I think not everybody speak about that. It's
Yes.
important that you say it here.
Yes, I take pride in my army. I take pride in of being a part of the army, of having served the army with pride, because I come from the military family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We will talk about your history later.
Yes.
Now I want to ask you about something different. Should civilians be psychologically preparing for conflict in any way? If so, what does that look like without falling into paranoia? This is important.
Yes, so answer to your question could be yes, no, and maybe. So confusing as it may sound,
Sorry.
let me explain. Right. So as civilians, they must learn to set aside the irrational beliefs that the enemy is at the gate. They must learn to remove those unwanted fears which are not realistic, because it is coming from the social media, which is bombarding them with all kinds of negative inputs about war and while war is traumatic, of course, but it's not likely that we will go to war. And just to give you a correlation, war is traumatic, and so is the pandemic. We have survived the pandemic. We have learned how to live as a community. So what is more important for civilians is to understand what is it that they can do to ensure that they protect their families, they protect the community, and are contributing meaningfully to the society and the community by preparing for war mentally and not creating a fear psychosis or what you said, paranoia. So let me use a word an acronym I like to talk about, removing unwanted FLAB.
Mhm.
So FLAB stands for fear, loneliness, anxiety, and boredom.
Mhm.
All of which we also experienced during the pandemic.
Mhm.
So this is something which we not need to not do, right? But yes, what we must do, we must ensure that resilience is built at the individual level and at the community level. And I will talk about that also in detail with you about how we can build resilience for individuals and communities, and also to maintain functioning that in case of war, we should be prepared, but we should not have undue anxiety or fear of war.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
That was also important what you say about pandemic, because I think after Second War, it was first time during these times, during last years, which this situation was were in all over the world.
All over the world.
I can say the pandemic was everywhere, and everyone feels the same.
Yes.
In every country, we have the same problems. I can say, okay, in maybe Italy was more stronger. In China, it's different, but in some cases, quite the same.
Yeah. So what comes out, collectively, if you see that there was a very strong social support.
Mhm.
If the social support is strong, if you have significant people in your life who matter, who are there for you, you know that you're not in it alone. So if we survive the pandemic, in case of war also, we're not there in it alone. If our support system is strong as a family, as a society, and as a community, and as a nation, this too shall pass and we will overcome it stronger.
In times of geopolitical tension, what can individuals and communities do to build psychological resilience?
Okay, so during the pandemic, my colleagues, Dr. Andres Piotrowski from Gdansk and Professor Olber from Oslo in Norway, and we developed a 7-stage CARIES model. CARIES, again, is an acronym. I like to use acronyms, So we developed a CARIES model to deal with psychological resilience at individual and community level. So let me explain to you in a nutshell very briefly. What is this CARIES model? So the C stands for cognitive flexibility, which means it gives us the ability to select, mentally process appropriate and inappropriate responses during events which are traumatic or perceived to be traumatic.
Mhm.
So this is in the C part of the CARIES model. The A part is the adaptive mindset, which means the individuals should be able to evaluate in a critical event what are their reactions and how they can respond in different ways. What are the options that they need to do and choose between what is most appropriate. Your ability to adapt to different situations. So like, in the military, what we call the VUCA environment, the military is supposed to be VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So how and it's very constantly dynamic, it's changing. How do you have to keep changing and adapting to the environment which is changing?
Mhm. Mhm.
Right.
It's not only in the military world, I think.
Yes,
It's in global, in normal situations.
Yes, but in the non-military world, there is a term which is equivalent to the VUCA. They call it the BANI.
Mhm.
The BANI stands for brittle, anxious, non-linear, and incomprehensible. So it means about the same, right? Because it's not like when you go to work in the corporate, there's somebody firing at you like in the military operations.
Yes,
So,
I know it's different, but I'm
Different
talking
stresses.
about this possibility to adapt. This
Absolutely. Yes. And that is what everyone has to adapt.
Mhm.
When we talk about survival of the fittest, Charles Darwin, his theory of survival,
Mhm.
if you look back and see the dinosaurs,
Mhm.
they were much stronger, much bigger. But they vanished during the Ice Age. They became extinct. And why? Because they were not able to adapt. And even small, as humans and other animals, we were able to survive because we were able to adapt. So it's more about survival of the fittest of the species. So even as humans, it is your ability to adapt which will make us survive as a community and as a nation.
Mhm.
Even individually and as a nation, we have to adapt.
Mhm.
If you live in a hostile neighborhood, well, you have to adapt. You can't change your neighbors. You have to adapt
You
and,
have to.
and live with it.
You have
Right.
no chance.
Yes. So we talked about cognitive flexibility. We talked about the adaptive mindset. And then realistic optimism, which means you need to know, you have to be realistic. So while it's good to be optimistic person, it's also good to have a realistic understanding of the environment.
Mhm.
And accordingly, your responses have to be also realistic.
Mhm. But it's not really easy for stay optimistic all the time and positive mind and positive vibes. It's, I think,
So you have to
Not
balance. You have to balance the
balance.
pleasant and the unpleasant. The sense of balance is very much essential.
Mhm.
Yes, and then the fourth point, the R, other than the realistic optimism, is relationship. So you remember I talked to you about the support. The social support is the strongest thing which is required, whether it's for civilians,
Mhm.
soldiers, or for anyone who is. If you have the support system, it's like a resource. It's a coping resource outside of you. So while it's good as a soldier to have strong coping resources, to be resilient, to be hardy,
Mhm.
but like I said, that there are no Rambos in the battlefield, you require the support system of your team
Mhm.
to achieve mission success. So again, relationships. And finally, impulse control. The Carries model, I said CARRIES. So I'm coming to the I part, the impulse control, which means that you have to learn how to control your impulses. You have to wait for the right moment and then take the appropriate action. And E again is emotional awareness, which means we need to understand our emotions. You know, when you talk about feelings, our feelings, they affect our thoughts, and our thoughts affect our behavior. So if you're able to understand our feelings, which are affecting the emotions, have an awareness of it, where is it coming from, you can control your behavior.
That's not really easy for most of people, I think. And without education, psychological education, this is, I think, also the case for understand.
So like, for example, you have anger. People talk about anger as an emotion. There's nothing wrong in being angry. Right?
Yes, yes, we
it's
can.
how,
It's our emotion.
yeah, it's how you channelize your anger, right?
Yes.
Appropriately or inappropriately. So we have to learn to understand what are the negative emotions which we emote, which is okay because we're humans. We will have negative emotion. Like you said, you cannot always be positive. Yet when you have those negative emotions, how do you adapt? How do
We're
you
coming
behave?
back to
So-
adapt.
Yeah, so it's about
Possibility,
it's
yes.
about reframing. You know, like we use the term in psychology, which you're aware of, cognitive restructuring. So, for example, when you talk about stress, it's not the event, but the interpretation of the event which is stressful. So, reframing is a very important aspect of impulse control. You can control your impulses of the negative emotions through reframing the situation in a positive manner. To give you an example, if I get an injury to my leg,
Mhm.
I feel bad if I'm a sports person. Oh, I can't play sports. And yet, if I had to reframe it, that look, if that bullet had hit me another 3 feet on top on my head, I would have been down in a body bag. So it's okay that I got injured in the leg and not in my head.
Okay, you had to do it.
Yes.
Okay, you should. You could cry. Okay,
So you move
I
on.
have
You
problem
accept.
with my leg, and I can lay down till the end of my life.
Yes.
But
so,
you have changed it.
yes.
You
So,
have reframed it.
yes, you have to reframe it. And then you have the emotional awareness, which I talked about, how to consciously reframe, I said. And finally, self-efficacy.
Mhm.
The S carries. The S part is your self-efficacy is the belief that you have it within you to do what it takes.
Mhm.
You have
This
confidence
is
in yourself.
Confidence in yourself. Everybody has to learn it, and it's not really easy. Okay, I'm this our podcast today. Our talking is very hard, but I think it's very, very important, and I hope you. All of you who listening this topic are also grateful to Dr. Samir that he speaks in that way. Thank you. I have more questions.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, okay. From your own journey as a commander and combat veteran, what is the emotional tool of leadership during war?
To put it in a nutshell, the emotional toil for a leader is precious loss of lives, be it your own or it could be the adversary. After all, we are all human beings. I'm fighting for my country and he's fighting for his country. There is no personal animosity involved, and may the best person win. So there are times when you have to use military force to achieve nation's objectives. And you will also know that like we live in a very hostile environment, and yet we are a peace-loving nation because we come from the land of Buddha. Right? We are not interested in non-violence. But yes, if push comes to shove, we will do everything to protect the people and to protect the nation. So you will find soldiers are trained to deal with neutralizing the enemy, and it comes at a cost sometimes. And yet when you talk about my own journey, my biggest achievement has not been all the awards and the medals and the glory that comes with it.
They are very beautiful.
Thank you. So these are mostly operational medals. So this is not
How
my
many
biggest-
is?
The 12 of them.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So
Are you proud of them?
I'm proud of what I did along with my team. I had the opportunity to lead my men. It was not me alone.
It's nice.
If it is
It's
this,
nice.
it's not because
And
of
this
me.
is real leadership.
Yes, this is not because of me. This is because I had the opportunity of having a good team, people who were able to deliver. So my biggest achievement is that I was able to bring back every single guy back alive.
Mhm.
So while we had a share of injuries, it was okay. I also got injured because we neutralized the enemy. So they had heavier casualties. And if some of us had injuries, it's okay because that's the way it is in battle. You win some, you lose some. So my biggest achievement is that I did not have to answer to some family who could have asked me that how come you came back alive. So I thank God for not putting me in that situation where I had to, answer to a military family who may have, as part of my team, not been able to make it back. So that, I think, is my journey as a soldier. And for every soldier, the biggest loss, the toll on leadership, is the loss of human lives. There can be nothing worse than that.
Mhm. But okay, the soldier is coming back home. And what happens to the soldier after the war? Who comes back? How to identity, purpose, and belonging shift when the mission ends?
Okay, thank you for asking that question. Unfortunately, there is no on-off switch. So when you send the soldier, the best young men and women to fight, to protect the nation, you train him to become aggressive towards the enemy, right? And once the war is over, you cannot switch off that aggression. It
Yes.
takes time. So there is something what we call psychological debriefing, which is very essential to deal with soldiers returning home after the war, where you have a layoff period where you let him relax, let him know that, okay, that was war. What we did there was what we did there. It's not normal for us to do similar kind of things when we are back home, because now you're not living among the enemy, you're living among your own people. And sometimes it can be very challenging for people to switch off from that mode of aggression to becoming, and then also you have, for example, I'll share with you an incident. One of my clients, so he had returned home after operations, and he'd gone out for dinner during a religious festival, what we call Diwali, which is a
Mhm.
celebration of victory over evil. It's a festival of lights. So they were having dinner in a restaurant, and outside they could hear some children playing firecrackers. So in response to hearing that loud noise, this soldier, he immediately dashed down to the ground, much to the disbelief of the family and other people who were. So in a war situation, because he had gone back, the loud noise was a trigger of what he may have experienced in operations. So it is a normal response. When you hear a noise for a soldier, you dash down, crawl, observe, sight, and fire back at the enemy. So it was a normal response, right? So without getting into the labeling of whether this was combat stress reaction or whether this was PTSD, it is suffice to say that most people, most soldiers are able to adjust and reintegrate back into the military and into civilian life later on. But some of them are unable to do it, and they have to deal with challenges, not just for themselves, but the family also has to deal with a soldier who is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder.
Even if they have a support from family, it's possibility that they never come back
Yes,
to the normality.
absolutely. So reintegration training is something which is also provided. You asked a very important question. What happens to the soldier once he comes back? Like I said, most of them are able to get back to their routine life. They're able to continue to live a near normal life because it's no longer normal. So for example, if you take a rubber band and you stretch it beyond a point, will it come back to the normal? It will not. So war similarly is something which will change you. It will change you forever. Sometimes for good and sometimes not for good. Right? So it is, again, because of individual differences. So mission over, a soldier's identity never changes. There is a saying, old soldiers never die. They merely fade away.
And it's also difficult for understand for another people, for society, for the wives, for children, that it's a new person, it's a different person, and this is also important. But I think we don't touch this in this moment. How to help families with that. With this coming back person,
Yes,
with the new object.
Absolutely. So
This is, maybe not nice what I say, but it's something new. It's somebody's new.
yes, you have to accept that the person is new, is different, and we have to make efforts. It's a collective effort to reintegrate, to get the soldier back. And as far as the sense of belonging, identity, and camaraderie, for the soldier, it's there for a lifetime. Even after the soldier retires, he puts away his uniform, he still connects with those people with whom he's been to war. They're the best buddies, and they will always be, because they have lived a life which is worth living. They've lived a life which is also worth dying for.
It's strong, and it's. I feel a little pain here when I'm thinking about that. We are living. I'm living in Poland. We have a lot of Ukrainian people here, families, and sometimes I see this suffering. I see this social problem here, and I think this is very important. What you say about adopting,
Yes.
with the new situations, and also have empathy for accept, for understand, have a little reflection,
Compassion.
compassion, calm down.
Yes.
Okay, take a look. Don't push. Don't. Yes,
Yes. And the last is the acceptance part, which is very difficult.
it's very difficult. Okay, in your view, what are the most dangerous forms of conflict today? Is it still guns and borders, or more subtle battles like disinformation, ideological warfare, or economic destabilization?
So
You have, I think you have speak about that in the beginning of our interview, in the beginning of our podcast. But if you can put it all together now
yes, of
in
course.
some words.
Yes. So it's my concerted view that the most dangerous form of war is not going to be kinetic. It's not going to be about weapons. And so while there will be a certain amount of weapons and all, but mostly it's going to be the biggest challenge today is the war which will happen will maybe nuclear, chemical, or biological. And I think 5 years ago, when the pandemic was playing out, we took out a book, Military Psychology Response to Post-Pandemic Reconstruction. It was my belief even then that was a case of bioterrorism. Because as you know, the virus, it spread from a place called Wuhan which is a military laboratory in China.
Yes.
So it was-
Don't forget about that.
Yes, so it was bioterrorism, which unfortunately they were not able to control.
Mhm.
So that, along with what we talked about, playing on the psyche of the mind, a little bit of kinetic, but not much, but also information warfare, psychological warfare, not just for the soldiers, but creating mass hysteria for
Mhm.
people, right? Destroying vulnerable targets and vital areas and impacting the lives of people in a very inhuman way.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I feel that is just the tip of the iceberg. But I hope we don't go to war.
Mhm.
Because
But okay. So how should we define war in today's world? Again, tell to our people who are watching us now.
Okay, so as a soldier, you know that the decision to go to war is not a military decision, it's a political one.
Mhm.
And it was Karl von Clausewitz, who was a Prussian general, who talked about war and defined it globally as we know it. Every military soldier would refer to Clausewitz and his different theories of war. So according to Clausewitz, war is just the continuation of politics by other means.
It's sad.
Yes, incidentally, Clausewitz died of, I think it was cholera in this very city at the age of 51. So I find it's more about, when you talk about war, it's more of a swift control over power and resources, and fueled by media and by the inflated egos of some of the world leaders who want to etch their place permanently on this place where we live, which I call the little blue dot, the planet Earth. If you were to ask me my thoughts on war, so during the pandemic, during the peacetime, right, you find that the army demonstrates managing resources, creating and preparing for war
Mhm.
at the senior level. But during times of actual war, you require leaders of men and not managers to basically differentiate between managers and leaders. During peacetime, maybe you require good management, but during wartime, you require young leaders, especially junior leaders, at the junior leader level, to demonstrate by example, to be role models for soldiers, to go into operations, to put themselves as much risk as they want their soldiers to do, and to be able to fight and come out victorious and emerge. And that is what will basically differentiate between defeat and victory in operations.
Mhm.
It's not about how many tanks you have or how many drones you have. Ultimately, it is the man behind the machine
Mhm.
who will win the war for the nation.
Okay, yeah. Maybe now something more about hope and healing. You've seen the wars and work with the people trying to heal from it. And what gives you hope? And maybe what signs of strength or recovery stay with you?
So when you talk about psychological changes that a person goes through, so on one end of the continuum, we had what we talked about, the PTSD, and something which not much talked about is the post-traumatic growth, where a soldier learns to appreciate life more,
Mhm.
comes out stronger, is more resilient, is able to maybe bounce back higher than what he was when he went to war. So he becomes a better person in a relatively kind of way. Not to suggest that it's a good thing to have war to become a better person.
Yes.
Yes?
Don't say it.
Oh.
It's the same about have a cancer or accidents with injuries. So
Yes.
it's not the same.
Yes.
Mhm.
So what gives immense hope to the soldier is the social support that the soldier receives from the family, from friends and significant others who matter, from the community, and from the nation at large. I will give you an example. When you study PTSD in its entire this thing in all over the world, what stands out is the PTSD rates were highest during the Vietnam War, and not during the World War, not during the Korean War, not the Afghanistan War or Iraq War. It was the highest during the Vietnam War.
Mhm.
And as a researcher, if you ask me why was it like that, simple reason: the soldiers fighting in Vietnam, young boys, 18 years old and above, US soldiers, young boys, They came back and the war was not being acknowledged as their own. So they were fighting a war in a foreign land, which back home was not being acknowledged at home. So the home front for them was very strong. And in the absence of a strong home front, it can lead to, and the PTSD were as high as 40%, where most wars you'll find PTSD rates vary from maybe 3% to 5%, in some cases 15 to 20%, but here you had 40%. So social support does matter.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is important too. Are you still there? Are you still there, people? Okay. Now it's maybe easy question. Is peace just the absence of war or something more?
So I think it was back in 1670, it was Spinoza who said that peace is not the absence of war, but it is a virtue, it's a state of mind, a disposition of benevolence and confidence and justice. So these are big words. So I would say peace is when all the world leaders recognize and learn to live amicably and coexist without looking for other people's territories, territorial control. So today we live in a world which in military parlance is called no war, no peace. And believe you me, when I read this first time, this acronym
It's strange.
NWNP, I laughed my head off that there is actually a term called no war, no peace. So this is a period of basically low intensity conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And today we live in a time of no war, no peace, where there will be conflicts. It will not be an all-out war.
Mm-hmm.
There will be skirmishes, and it will be done quickly. It will not be a protracted long period like unfortunately what's happening in the Russia-Ukraine war, which actually I look at it differently, but that we will talk about separately. Maybe we don't have time for that. But if you ask me, no war, no peace sounds better than having a hybrid war or having a war of what is also called operations other than war,
Mm-hmm.
which means people are looking at how can you destroy a country economically, politically, which was done. If you see Iran, you see Iraq, you see Syria, you see Afghanistan, there were vested interests. When you talk about war, continuation of politics, I'm not saying it, Clausewitz said it.
Mm-hmm.
Continuation of politics by other means. So that is how these countries who also had a right to live as their own cultural, so they were devastated. And there are vested interests who are happy. The pharmaceutical industry, the arms ammunition industry, the weapons industry, they're happy to go to war because the ammunitions are being sold, the medicines are being sold. And
This
that is
is
why it's
crazy things, but it's true. It's our reality.
Yes, so till then we can endure to search for peace within. And as individuals, maybe we should have, the war should not be within us. We should be at peace with ourselves. We should learn to live happy and coexist within the family, within the community, and be a part of the nation's progression in how we can meaningfully contribute to the nation and building the nation.
Mm-hmm. We should wish that to everyone. No?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I have maybe the last question because our time is finishing. But for those listening who are worried, overwhelmed, or unsure of the world we are heading into, what would you say to them? Not as a soldier, but as a psychologist.
You cannot take out the soldier from me, right?
Yes, you said that before, but
yes.
this question is prepared before. So
let
I
me
didn't know what you say.
Yeah, so let me answer this question.
But not too long.
As a military psychologist.
Okay.
Right. And I will share by integrating my own military experience of 25 years and my 2 decades of practice as a psychologist.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So being unsure in this world where we're heading, it is okay to have overwhelming thoughts of what will happen in case of war. What will happen? What am I supposed to be doing? So these are understandable apprehensions and fleeting thoughts that come to our mind. So yet allow me to rephrase that question. In a war situation, it's not what you're supposed to be doing. It's who you're supposed to be. If we learn to identify who you are supposed to be, whether you are a military personnel or you're a civilian, the answer to what you're supposed to do will automatically follow. So for example, in the military, if you're a soldier, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust the training that you have been giving. You've been given, you have to trust the weapons, you have to trust the equipment, you have to trust your team members, you have to trust the military leaders. And automatically you will do what is required to be done as a soldier. For a civilian, you have to trust the military, you have to trust the nation, you have to trust the family.
Society.
You have to trust. And what you should be doing as a civilian, you have to understand procedures, you have to understand protocols, you have to understand that at times you have to give away your freedom so that you can live, to fight, to survive after the war.
Mm-hmm. But the most important, difficult is trusting.
Yes, trust.
And what if the people don't trust the nation, the country, the the military? This is, I think, big problem, and this is this can cause a trauma, or maybe stress, or maybe depression, and maybe this anxiety. I don't know. Fear.
There's an old Dutch saying that trust arrives on foot and leaves on horseback.
Mm-hmm.
Which means it takes a lot of time to develop trust.
Mm-hmm.
And to break trust like this, if the military is not able to look after its people, to protect its people, obviously the civilian community will not trust them. And there are places in the world where the civilians, they mock the military because the military has a background of not being able to, of constantly losing wars,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you trust the civilian, the political dispensation of the day, who has come to power in a democratic manner, will take care to ensure what it does. It trusts the power, the government, right? So I can share with you my own examples of what's happening lately, last month, right? I'm sure you may have heard of it. The 28 tourists were killed by terrorists from across the border. And in response, there was a strong military response, there was a strong economic response, there was a strong strategic response that made the enemy bring it down on its knees and ask for a ceasefire. So if people trust the government that it will take whatever has to be done, it will do. So trust, like you said, is a very important facet which takes time to build up.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it that the military needs to do? What is it that the politicians need to do? What is it that the leadership needs to do to gain the trust of the people? To ensure that, they are willing to give their freedom so that you can do whatever it takes, right? You can make standard procedures during war. What is it that people are supposed to do? And again, what are the civilians can do? For example, you can volunteer. If you have certain competencies, you can register for volunteering. There will be, in case of operations, you will require more doctors, you'll require volunteers, you'll require emergency first responders. So you can collective, whatever is your competency, you can provide those competencies at the community level.
Mm-hmm.
And automatically you're doing what is it that you're supposed to be doing. And then you stand strong as a nation.
Colonel Rawat, I think we never stop, but we have to finish our conversation. And I have my personal question. Do you regret that you have came here and have speak with me in that kind of way, where my English were not good because of stress? And I'm sorry, you guys, that I am not giving my best. I was trying, but it's not the best. How do you feel now after our conversation?
I'm surprised that you say that your English is not good. English is, after all, is just a medium of communication. And as long as we were able to resonate and convey our thoughts, I think your English was good.
Thank you. Okay. I'm not the best, but I'm good enough.
I think you're good. The word enough can be deleted from that. And I'm happy to be here and to talk to you, Magda. And thank you for having me over and sharing my 2 cents from my own experience as a soldier, as a psychologist, as a professor of psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And I thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I have many questions in my head, which I wanted to ask, but the time is finished. So let me say thank you again. And I wish all the people in all over the world no war, more peace. And you, what you wish?
Well, I also wish them the same. And I wish that they have a good weekend with family, friends, and significant people who matter in their lives. Don't fear. Just have confidence in yourself and the leaders of the nation.
Mm-hmm.
Take care and enjoy the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
Good day. Bye-bye.
Some conversations don't need to be dramatic to be heavy. Thank you, Colonel Dr. Samir Rawat, for bringing gravity without noise. And to you, listening, thank you for staying in the tension, for not turning away. This was Nieostre Rozmowy podcast. We don't end with clarity. We end with questions. And what can I say? See you next time.